Understand how to make language objectives, it is important to know how to use them in your classroom. This video provides a brief overview on how to help students reach the language objectives during your content lesson. Why are language objectives important? It is important to remember that all students, not just ELL learners, need to understand the language needed to interact with the content of the lesson. Students should know what the language objectives are. For example, you could write them on the board. Remember that teaching language objectives doesn't need to take extra time or take away from the content of the lesson. Let's watch a short video about the success of teaching language objectives along with the content of the lesson.
The rise of scores, I would attribute that to SILE. I think it's been apparent that our teachers have, first of all, I think just the components of the objectives that they state, the language and the content objective. I think what was missing when we went into Proposition 203 is we started going into English, but we weren't really teaching English. I think that's the big difference. And I think the language objective makes the teacher cognizant of those language skills that they do need in order to deliver a lesson effectively. Then you can reach content. And I saw that immediately. Teachers had a habit of going into academic content area and omitting the language portion. And they were missing the whole ballgame because it was a very apparent thing.
Here are 4 guidelines for teaching language during a content lesson. First, integrate the content and the language. Teach the language as you teach the content, just in time, so everything flows naturally. Second, consider all aspects of the language objective. Third, use effective, engaging, content-based tasks. Lastly, use a variety of modes and tasks. This video gives a brief overview of these guidelines. It is important to integrate the content and language of the lesson. Make sure the students work on the language and content at the same time. This doesn't need to be separate. Here are 2 examples of how this is done. If the content objective of a lesson is, students will be able to explain the directions they take to school, and the language objective is, students will be able to use prepositions correctly, the content and language could be interconnected by the teacher asking questions that connect the two. The teacher could ask, who knows some direction words? Here are a few more we might use to explain the directions to our school. This way, the language learned is directly related to the content. Sometimes, language is already involved in the content of the lesson. For example, if the content objective is students will be able to write a narrative about a past event in their lives, and the language objective is students will be able to use past tense to write a narrative, these objectives are very related. However, it is important for the teacher to still directly teach the language needed for the lesson, in this case, past tense. Secondly, teachers must consider all aspects of the language objective. The teacher must think about all the ways the language could be used and decide what aspects will be taught in the lesson. For example, if the language objective was students will be able to use future tense to make predictions about the weather, there are many ways one could use future tense, including what is listed below. Teachers therefore must decide what aspect they will focus on in their lesson. Teachers should also use effective, engaging, content-based tasks for teaching language objectives. When students are engaged in the language learning, it is called language in use. Lessons should be connected to what they already know and are interested in. For example, teachers could use technology, appeal to different strengths, integrate art in the lesson, and provide real practice and hands-on learning. Watch an example of an active, engaging lesson on how to write directions. How is this teacher engaging the class?
Yellow light. This is the yellow light, yeah. Right on. Then turn right. Go down the ramp. Stop at the end of the railing. Yeah, right here. Then, turn left. Then go straight. Stop at the red line. Next, turn right. Turn right. And
Lastly, teachers must use a variety of modes and tasks to teach language objectives. Using these different forms of instruction, students will be more likely to engage and remember the language if they use it in a variety of ways. For example, teachers could use videos, games, active activities, art involvement, home connections, or interaction through group work. Can you think of any other examples? Watch a video of how several kindergarten teachers use a variety of modes to teach their class.
All right, come on in.
Today on Teaching Channel presents Kindergarten Common Core.
We are now going to play Mingle. Everyone ready? Mingle.
It may look like simple fun and games, but these kids are learning math fundamentals.
Do we have a good group of 4 right here?
Yes!
One more time. Here we go.
1, 2, 3.
Practicing how to quickly visualize number combinations
Isaiah, did you see it a different way?
I counted by 2s.
and count collections of colorful objects.
You and your partner need to decide how we're going to count.
2, 6.
You'll also see a playful approach to Common Core literacy
Wow!
as students learn to read new words and then act them out.
Sad.
Show me your sad face. Like you're about to cry.
So, where is this, Alani?
America.
And watch how this teacher incorporates tactile, auditory, and visual learning into a very entertaining social studies lesson.
All the things that they play with are experiences that make them think.
Let's review what we have learned. There are 4 main guidelines to teaching language objectives in the classroom. 1. Integrate the content and language. 2. Consider all aspects of the language objective. 3. Use effective, engaging, content-based tasks. 4. Use a variety of modes and tasks. Some ways to start a conversation about language objectives include, before we start our project, let's talk about the vocabulary we need. Or, I noticed that some of you were having trouble writing your summaries. Let's review